Transformation Challenge, and that's what I do here is I do training, I do nutrition coaching, and so small group and personal training. I don't actually teach any of the big classes that a lot of you come to, sorry. I have a degree in exercise science and certification through the National Academy of Sports Medicine for my training and my nutrition. And I've worked here for 7 years.
Ever.
I've been here for 7 years.
She's an OG.
And there's a reason I still work here. I love it. It is amazing. And I'm gonna go like this so that you can't see that weird white thing behind me.
It's just a blanket.
It's just a
blanket. Oh, no.
I know, I just
close.
keep seeing this little white thing.
Okay.
Anyway, that's me.
And then we've got, and you guys haven't met Tara here, but we've got Tara, and her specialization is in dietetics. Is that what they call it? Dietetics. So tell the people about you.
I'm TaraLyn.
Yeah. Tell the people. Where'd you go to school?
I went to school at UNLV. I have a bachelor's degree in nutrition science, also a year-long dietetic internship under my belt. I used to teach at Dixie State University for a couple years, but I'm taking a break right now from everything.
But she's here to share all of her knowledge and experience with all of you guys. So I really hope that you guys will take advantage of the tools and resources that we have while we have them in person. And if you drop a question after, if you're watching the replay, you drop a question, we'll make sure that these two get you some quality answers. So utilize these tools while you have them today. We've had quite a few questions in regards to health and nutrition. This is a really important part of your journey and making sure that you master and nail it, which is why I brought in 2 experts, and we're gonna do a whole live. And this one, I don't wanna rush this one. So get cozy, grab your water, grab a snack, and listen to all of it if you really want to have a better, more comprehensive understanding of your nutrition and what you need to do to reach those goals. So, you guys all have nutrition guidelines. You got those emailed there in your success toolbox. If you have not looked at those yet, majority of what we're referring to today is also found inside of that guideline. So if you hear us refer to certain numbers and grams and things and percentages, all of those numbers are listed in the success toolbox in your nutrition guidelines portion of that. So refer back to that often, okay? So in that, we talked about your BMR and your TEE. Your BMR is your basal metabolic rate. That's if you were literally like in a coma, that's basic cellular function for your heart to pump blood, your lungs to breathe, cellular regeneration. That's how much energy your body needs at a bare minimum if you were doing nothing all day. So then your TEE, 2 E's, is your total energy expenditure, including the movement that you do throughout your day. So it's gonna be really crucial, given that if we're trying to gain weight or lose weight, that we understand energy balance, that is the base of your nutrition guidelines, and we're gonna add on to that today. So hopefully you've all calculated your BMR and your TEE already. So if they've already calculated their BMR and their TEE, Heather, what would you recommend their next step be?
So depending on where you are, what your goals are, what you want to do, you would look at, well, the first thing you want to do actually is to track. So, and that seems really intimidating, I know, to a lot of people, but especially in the very beginning, that you've got to track and meticulously track without leaving anything out. That's weighing, that's measuring, that's getting everything in so that you know really where you are and what you are currently eating. Because if you come now and you say, well, I'm eating way too much fat, and so you suddenly dive and go into hardly any fat, it's not going to be sustainable. It has to be something that works for you. So you have to know where you are in order to know where you're going. And it's fine, no matter where you are, that's fine. That's just where you are. It's just a thing. And it's a starting point. But you have to be real with yourself. You have to be real with what you are doing, what you are eating, so that you can make an honest evaluation of where you're going to go and what is going to be the most effective method to get you there. So once you figure out where you are, at that point you can decide, okay, I'm eating way too few calories, and then I think we'll get into this later, but that's where you would reverse diet, and that's something we'll talk about, but I'm sure. So we will And then you could also say, okay, I'm way overeating, so then I say we, but I guess you guys are kind of in charge of your numbers, but also like feel free to holler. I would be happy to help calculate macros. I know, and Nikki and Ashley too.
Yeah, and that's part of what the group is here for as well, is to help guide you. Ask your questions, be like, hey, this is what I have been eating. And that's the way you have to have a baseline though. So if you calculate, you kind of track for a week and you notice that you're significantly under eating. Maybe you're eating like at that BMR or even below that BMR on a regular basis. But you calculate your TEE and you're at, over 2,000 calories. You cannot safely, without side effects, go from eating 1,000 calories to eating 2,200 calories overnight. That's not what we're asking you to do, and that's not what we want you to do. We want you to take a slow and strategic place, but if you don't understand your baseline and you don't calculate your baseline first, then you're not gonna know how to navigate and what your next step is gonna be. So it's always gonna be, the very first thing you need to do after calculating your BMR and your TEE is where are you currently. So then you can look in those nutrition guidelines, read them carefully. Are you trying to lose weight? Are you trying to gain weight? Or do you need to reverse diet? And then approach from there. So Tara, what are the implications if let's start with the easy one first. What are the serious implications if they are overeating?
Well, if they're overeating, the serious implications are obviously overnutrition, which can also lead to malnutrition. If you're getting too much of one thing or a couple of things, that can lead to malnutrition because those things will overtake and push out all of the other good nutrients. And most of the time when people overeat, they tend to eat processed or fast foods, things like that. And so that's what that comes down to. And then further on down the line, that will lead to nutrition-related disease, which is heart disease, hypertension, you will develop type 2 diabetes. There's all sorts of different things that it can lead to, and it's actually taking from their body, believe it or not. It takes away from their nutrition altogether, so their bones suffer, their organs suffer, their tissues suffer.
And are there implications with particularly visceral fat, like fat lining their organs, and the stress that causes?
Absolutely. So visceral fat can actually put pressure on the organs, and that makes your organs very sluggish, including your pancreas. So a lot of people will develop diabetes because of that pressure on the pancreas. It's just like if an elephant was sitting on you, you couldn't breathe, you couldn't work, and that's the same concept.
Makes sense. So now let's dive into the harder one. This one is, I actually see this more often than not, is what are the implications of significantly undereating? So we're in a challenge. Many of the people, not all of them, but many of the people are here for weight loss. What can occur with significant undereating?
So what happens when people undereat is the body actually has a negative response. Your metabolism tanks. So we don't want our metabolism to tank because that's a negative effect. And then we hit our standstill and the body will actually hold on to nutrients as much as it can. So even though you're eating little nutrients, you're going to absorb all those. It's gonna hold on to them. Also, the body will start to pull from your bones and your tissues because it's not getting what it needs. So your bones is going to pull all those minerals from the bones to compensate, and it's going to pull from the tissues in your muscle and start to eat your muscle because it needs to sustain itself. Also, organs can start to shut down because organs need nutrition to function. So we're looking at malnutrition at this point.
And muscle wastage also is the fastest way to flatline your metabolism as well, because muscle requires a lot more energy. You've got a pound of fat in your hand and you've got a pound of muscle in your hand. Your muscle actively contracts. Anytime you make a movement, it is skeletal muscle that is creating that movement. That skeletal muscle requires energy. Your adipose tissue, your fat, they just exist. They're just there to make everything more challenging and put more stress on the body, but it doesn't actually actively contract. So it doesn't actively burn calories.
I don't know about that because if I jump just right, it continues to move. So
it's like the ripple effect, Heather. It's the ripple effect that has nothing to do with contraction. So contraction it uses energy. Using energy being calories. And so if your goal is to create this energy deficit or a high firing metabolism, the more lean muscle mass that you put on, which means you're going to need to preserve your muscles, right? Not waste them away by over dieting or eating in too significant of a deficit for too long. And then the other side of it is, right, all the mental implications of it, that it's not sustainable. You can't adhere to it. You rebound after the fact, and then all of the havoc and the metabolic damage that goes into that continual spiral.
And you can get irreversible damage to your organs if you're not eating enough, and that's really scary.
Yeah, irreversible damage. So it's crucial that yes, you eat in a deficit, but if you're eating too little, that can cause just as much damage, if not more damage, than overeating can. So pay very close attention to those BMR and those TEE numbers. The BMR, again, given that if you were in a coma, if you were just sitting there, basic cellular functions happening with no movement, you need at least that much energy for basic cellular function. So if you're not getting at least that, then you're starving on a micronutrient and cellular level, right? Okay, so Heather, back to you. Should they track macros? Just gonna see if there's any questions. Yeah, keep going.
Okay, I say yes, especially at the very beginning, so that we can find that baseline. But not just that. The benefit of tracking macros is it allows you to customize your diet to you. But I think that's kind of a problem where people is like, I don't want to count macros. Because I think too many people use it as a diet, and it should not be used as a diet. It should be used as a tool to allow you to see this is what's working, this is what is not working, so then you can adjust those numbers to fit to you. Because you try, say you wanted to try the Atkins diet, like that was not created for you, for your body, right? And so this way, it's not somebody saying you should do this. This is you coming in and saying, this is what I'm doing, and this is what is working, this is what is not working, and then adjusting to that. So you're taking something and you are programming it specifically to you, to your body, and your body's needs. So I say yes, but not only that is when you get to where you're like, I'm not losing weight, I'm not losing weight, I'm not losing weight. First of all, it's not always about the weight. That's only one data point. So it's not about the number on the scale. I think the scale is a great place to get data from, but I don't think it needs to be used obsessively. I think it's a good place to just track one place, but also I heard an analogy actually recently that they said, you're never going to buy a house by looking at one picture. You're never going to know everything going on by just one data point. So you can do measurements, you can do your, how you fit in your clothes, you can do all these things. But if you feel like you're at a standstill, then you can look at it and say, okay, well, what needs to change, and you can make these adjustments.
Because you actually know what you're putting into your body. You can't know what to fix if you don't have a place to identify where you might be lacking, what might need to change and shift. So is it a little bit of a sacrifice? Does it take a little bit of time? Does it take a little bit of energy? Yeah, but if you want to get somewhere you've never been, you're going to have to be able to make those sacrifices somewhere. And so having that information, that constant feedback, and then you can kind of start to analyze it. And I feel this way, looking at your points. What could I manipulate? What am I not hitting, as optimally? What can I shift and play with? Because again, every body is different. Play with to help yourself feel better. So we want to give you the tools to be able to help you sustain your health and wellness long term. So all of these tools, they're tried and true tools that you can revisit and reuse. But if you're not logging, if you're not tracking, and you're not consistent with it, you're not really going to ever know what is or is not working. So how would you recommend they calculate or start with getting into the macro side of it, specifically proteins, fats, and carbs? In their nutrition guidelines, they got those percentages. So what do they do with those percentages?
Well, for me, when I'm calculating macros for people, I let them know, it's like, these are not hard, fast numbers. And until you learn your body and what works for your body, then you kind of just need to pick and honestly, that really can be that arbitrary. You have a range, and you pick that and you try that for a set amount of time. I don't know if you guys have something different. This is what I've done with my clients, but you kind of pick, like for proteins, if you are active, about 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. And so which equates to roughly 1 gram per pound of body weight is what you could be eating for your protein. And maybe you find that is not working for you, and so then you would adjust up and down. And that's one thing too that I think kind of goes away is people, you don't need to recalculate your macros, you just adjust the numbers. And even with weight loss, even with a change in your TDEE, you just adjust instead of completely recalculating. And did I get off topic? Are we still there?
No, we're still there. You're still there.
I have a
We're still
tendency
there.
to just like go over here and
So,
keep me on track.
I know one of the questions that we got since we're here before we move on to the next question, which we'll dive a little bit into the roles of proteins, fats, and carbs and why they're important, is they're asking, okay, so you've tracked, so you got a baseline, you tracked, which is great because now you have a baseline and you've identified that you're not hitting the percentage ranges, particularly for fats for carbs and proteins, which is also very, very common. So no, you're not alone. It's kind of Western societal eating tendencies. It's really easy to hit those fats, and sometimes it's hard, at least with our current carb and protein sources and choices, where we end up hitting our fats prematurely and still having not reached our protein and our carb needs. And so we were talking about this right before the live, taking into consideration your desired lifestyle, what foods are you willing to sacrifice and give up, and what foods are you not? Given that if you can't stick to your program, your odds of sticking to it and really getting those long-term results is slim to none. So we do have to take those factors into account. With that said, it is a challenge. You are going to have to give up some things to get to where you've never been before. But take a look at be proactive, be prepared, look at where you're going, what you like to enjoy, what are you going to eat for dinner? Do you know you're going to go out and have potato wedges and a cheeseburger for dinner? And if you are, what choices then can you shift and manipulate earlier in your day to accommodate that, but make sure that we're getting our micronutrients, our minerals, our vitamins, the things that fuel our cells, making sure that we're eating really, whole food dense meals, and maybe cutting back on some of the fats. If we're gonna stick with some red meats, maybe we choose leaner options for our breakfast and lunch. And then the same thing goes with sugar. If you know you're going to have a sweet treat at the end of the day that's going to put you in high fats or high carbs or over in your sugar allotment, maybe you do choose to cut back on the sweet potato that you had planned for lunch to kind of lessen the blow of the amount of sugars in general as a whole that you're going to consume. So if you're not proactive and you're not planning in ahead of time to an extent, then you're going to run into that trouble day in and day out and day in and day out. So knowing, again, your baseline, which we talked about, and then having those ranges, those target ranges, and start to identify, okay, I am consistently low in protein, or I am consistently low in carbs. Maybe I need to meal prep every Sunday to have some whole grains on hand. Like I keep brown rice or quinoa or, baked potatoes or sweet potatoes on hand almost on a weekly basis, so that I can easily grab, and they're simple, there's no fats tied to them, they help me hit my carb source, they're great pre and post workout, things like that. And then keeping grilled chicken breasts, ground turkey, things like that already prepared in the fridge, so that I can have some of those meals at interim to help keep my carbs and my proteins where I want them without overloading that fat and being, at 50-60% fats by the end of the day and barely being at,
And it's something that takes practice.
It does.
It takes a long time. When I very first started macro cutting, I think I was about 7 weeks before I really started to be able to consistently hit my macros every day. It takes time. And it's finding what you love, because if somebody else is like, you need to just eat these things, and you hate those things, how long is it gonna last? It's not going to last.
Does it work, Tara?
Nope.
Never. It doesn't.
So we want you to find the foods that you like, but it does and we're seeking progress, not perfection. And this is a journey to learn your body. That does not mean that you have to go from eating, 50% fats down to 20% fats overnight. In fact, that's highly discouraged to make any kind of dramatic shift overnight. But I also think understanding the concept of the role of proteins and carbs and fats in the body, understanding the role and why those percentages are important will help you make and continue to make and take action towards the goals, even when it's, a little bit frustrating as you're navigating it. So tell us just briefly, what do they need to know about what do proteins do in their body, what do fats do in their body, and kind of layman's terms, what do carbs, why are they important?
Okay, so we'll start with carbohydrates.
Okay.
Carbohydrates are extremely important because they are your fuel source. They give you energy. So if you go and you cut out all your carbs, that's going to have a very negative effect on a lot of different things. So you eat carbohydrates, it turns into glucose in your blood, it fuels your body, and it fuels your brain, and it also fuels your muscles. If you deprive your muscles of glucose, that is a negative thing. So you need carbohydrates. They're very important.
Let's go. Very important. Carbs are not bad or inherently fattening. They are your number one energy source.
It is overeating carbs that gets you in trouble. It is not carbohydrates.
And then we have our protein. Our protein is obviously important for fueling your muscles. And it also helps with different things like keeping your tissues up and healthy, your cells, and they work as enzymes in the body to help provide energy in certain areas. Protein is very important for muscle and also skeletal.
Yeah.
Skeletal development and maintenance. And so we'll go to fat. Fat is extremely important because it's an insulator. And it helps to protect your organs. It helps regulate your body temperature. So if you're really low in fat, you can't regulate your body temperature as easy.
Hormones too, right?
Yes, I was just going to say the precursor for hormones, and fat also helps to go in and protect the cell membrane. You need fat for cellular health. So we're made of cells, and if you don't have fat, you'll notice your skin will be dry, you'll be moody, all sorts of different things. So
that's why those kind of percentages, you need a healthy balance. You need all of them in distributed throughout all of your meals to keep you fueled on a cellular and physical level. That's what they call it, diet brain, like brain fog. That's a very real thing, and it's because your brain's not getting its primary energy source.
Absolutely. And there's also suggested percentages for each of these, and there's a reason for that. The reason is scientists for years and years have gone out and done scientific studies and have created this beautiful, range for each of them, because we can't go underneath a certain range and we can't go above, because our body only utilizes a certain amount of protein, carbohydrates, and fat.
Yep. And then that's where our body starts to perform suboptimally when we're not getting what we need, and we start to notice these shifts in how we feel, hormone regulations, period, changes and adjustments, acne, stress control, all of these things start to go down the crapper if you're not in those ranges. So don't beat yourself up and don't dramatically change, but work valiantly at making progress towards those ranges, bit by bit, piece by piece. Metabolic adaptation, back to you, Heather. What is metabolic adaptation? Because I feel like this is something that you see these diets and they're like, okay, well, all you have to do, it's really simple, energy balance, which means you have to eat in a deficit. So if you eat 1,200 calories, then you're gonna be good. You will hit this weight by this time. You put this in even my fitness pal. Bless my fitness pal. It's, but it's a robot, guys. It's a robot. It is not a human, and it doesn't take into consideration the human things that occur when we start to eat in a deficit. So it's like, oh, I'm eating this many calories. It told me I was gonna have this weight off by this day. What happened is your metabolism adapted. So what happens inside the body?
Top stuff. Metabolic adaptation. So basically, and I think Tara mentioned this, or or maybe Nikki, but your body adjusts to whatever you have. So if you come in, you are eating 1,200 calories, your body is going to adjust. And first, I want to even start this back, because if I ever have clients come to me and I'm like, okay, listen, this is going to be a process. I'm talking like, you want to lose 20 pounds, it could take us a year because your metabolism's screwed up, like whatever, we need to work through some processes. It is not always a quick fix, especially if you have done a lot of yo-yo dieting, then you need to do certain things to fix your body. And one of those things is to adjust with the metabolic adaptation. So as you eat at a certain level, your body will adjust to only use what you're eating. And it will use everything, even if it's putting it into storage, that's still considered a use. It doesn't, you're not gonna pee out any extra fat that you don't use. You keep it, your body will use it now or later, it's there. And so as you are dieting down and you hit this place that we get to that plateau that I mentioned, but here's the key with plateaus is you cannot consider it a plateau unless it has been over a month, maybe 5-6 weeks even. And then if you still are not seeing any progress, then is a great time to reevaluate, because it could just be water issues, it could be any number of things, but it's not considered a true plateau until it's been longer than a month. So you'll get people that maybe they get to that place, they've dieted down, and then all of a sudden they're like, sweet, I'm where I want to be. So they start eating back where they were, where they want to be, and just going crazy. And that's why you see people, and it's maybe happened to you guys or to people you know, that they've lost all this weight, and the next time you see them, they are bigger than they started. Because what happens is your body has now adjusted to this level, and you start eating at this level, but it's only burning this much, and so they're gaining so much extra. So what you need to do is you get to this point, and it was mentioned that, but I'm not losing the weight, so now what? And so then you cut more, and you cut more, and it doesn't work like that. What you have to do then is reverse diet, which is gradually key. It's gradually bringing your caloric intake up higher, and just a little bit at a time until you get to a better range, and then you keep it there. And you let your body adjust and feel like this is what this feels like. And so, which is a great thing. It's okay to eat more food, because then your body is like, okay, I have more. I don't have to hold on to everything. Now I can expand things and use it. And so as you eat more gradually, and hopefully, then your body will start to utilize that, and it will adjust up. And so as you stay at this place, call it a maintenance phase, you can stay in maintenance for a while, at least, anyway, a while. It depends on factors, but you stay in this maintenance phase, and then you can start to cut again. And you get to this point, and you then, you put yourself in a cut, and you say maybe, I'm gonna go 12 weeks, or 10 weeks, or 16 weeks, whatever. You're gonna choose how long, and whether you've reached your goal or not, at that point, you stop. And then you start to reverse, and you come back up to a maintenance phase. And what that does for your body is it allows it to adapt and to adjust more efficiently, and to burn the calories and everything more efficiently than it does when you are going crazy. You're not teaching and training your body. But it takes time, because it's your cut, you're doing 10 weeks down, then you'll do maybe 10 weeks up, and you hold it there for 10 weeks, and then you do 10 weeks down, just for example. But it's different, it fluctuates, but it takes time, and it allows your body to be healthy, and it allows your body to adjust and utilize efficiently what you're putting into your body.
And not damage your metabolism by continuing, because if your BMR is 1,200 calories, and you get to 1,200 calories and you hit a true plateau, and your body is not burning the fat, and you're not seeing the results. How many times do people that come to us and be like, I'm eating 1,100 calories, I have been for a year, and I still have, all this weight, I'm not seeing the results that I want. Why is that? And it's because, again, your energy needs have now dropped to meet what you're actually giving it. It has to survive. It's a survival mechanism, so it adapts to meet the needs or meet whatever you're giving it. And so if you're just constantly down here, this is where your metabolism is going to go. And just like a slow metabolism is not a good metabolism. We don't want our metabolism to slow. We want it to trust us. We want it to be firing optimally, and hanging out way down here is not the way to do that. So just knowing that, that if you dropped your calories from 2,300 calories before this program, and these first 2 weeks you decided you've been eating 1,200 calories, I'm going to encourage you to reassess your approach. The cue that I always like to say is, I want you to diet, and this is gonna make you the happiest. I want you to diet on the most amount of calories as possible while still seeing results. So if you're used to eating 2,300 calories and we're seeing results by putting you at 2,100 calories, that's where I want you until your body stops responding. And then we can drop again. It's not let's drop as fast and as rapidly as we can. Start with, if your body is responding to the deficit, then it's working. There's no need to go extreme and dramatic measures, because you're gonna drop it too rapidly, too fast, and then you're gonna hit a plateau, and you're gonna get to a point where you can't work out anymore and you can't eat any less. So then you're stuck, and that's where you are, unless you decide to reheal and repair and get that metabolism burning faster and higher than ever before. So always try to diet. Yes, you need a deficit, but try to diet on as many calories as possible. That approach is also the most sustainable. It's going to be easier for you to adhere, because you're not dealing with issues of like deprivation and scarcity, which mentally just don't accommodate a successful approach to any kind of nutrition.
I think it's so much mental too. I had one client, I was like, hey, you need to be eating at least 2,000 calories, and she just like, how am I supposed to lose weight on 2,000 calories?
Not understanding her TED,
Yes.
like how much energy she's actually supposed to be spending and optimizing, and that even when you're reverse dieting, there are people, I've seen it hundreds of times in clients over a decade, where they eat more and they lose more weight than they ever have before. Where like we get them eating more food and they're dropping body fat like crazy,
And they're happy.
and they're
not
happy,
shaking because
and
they're
they're
eating
eating
calories.
foods that they enjoy, and they have more energy, and they're sleeping better, and they're less stressed, and they've created this lifestyle, and it's because they're still in a deficit to lose fat. You do need, yes, that energy in versus energy out, but you have to have an optimal metabolism for that energy balance to work.
So it's hard too today, because most of us have social media. You're on social media, and there's 5 different diets saying, hey, you can lose 20 pounds in a month, which is extremely unhealthy.
But enticing to the
Dietitian said, guys.
Extremely unhealthy. It depends on the person and the weight loss, but if you're losing 20 pounds in a month, you're taking protein and all those minerals with it. So it's hard. Just be strong.
Trust the process. Trust the answer. You have 3 experts sitting in the room saying the exact same thing, because we've seen the damage that comes time and time again. They don't work. The reason many of you are here is maybe you've tried and failed and tried and failed and tried and failed. And we're explaining to you the science behind why it didn't stick and why it didn't work and what happened to your metabolism, and how you can eat in a deficit and not see the right results. And then the approach, again, read those nutrition guidelines carefully. I usually recommend very slow approach when reversing or dieting down. Start with find your medium, and if you need to reverse diet because you're eating too little, 75 to 150 calories. That's a small snack. It's not overwhelming. It's not going to make you fat. Your body can absolutely learn quickly how to utilize that much fuel. So add in or take away no more than 75 to 150 calories at a time when you make those adjustments. And I'd say the majority of those adjustments are made in the form of fats and carbs. So I usually keep my protein pretty consistent, whether I'm reverse dieting up or I'm dieting back down. And when I'm doing that, I'm just making minor tweaks to the fats and the carb content of my diet, and then adding it back in when it's time to go back up, or sitting at maintenance.
And that 75 to 150 grams, like right in there, I would do like a week at a time, maybe even 2 weeks at a time. So it's not like every day you're adding in.
Right. You want to give yourself enough time. And these are some cues that I find, like I would check in with yourself. Maybe you keep a journal, maybe you keep a log of how you're feeling, but maybe you add in 75 to 150 calories at a time. And then maybe when you first start eating that extra snack or that little extra portion at lunchtime and you feel really full and you're not hungry by dinner time, you'll know that it's time to go up again based off of how your body's responding. Your hunger cues and those hormones, those natural hormones that get released to tell you, hey, it's time to eat again, your metabolism and everything as it starts to rev and fire, all of those start to regulate again. So then you'll find within a couple weeks of eating that little extra that you're hungry again, that maybe you're even ravenous an hour after you've had a meal. And that's a very good sign that your metabolism is adapting to where you're at, and it might be time to add more food in again. Or same with going down. If you start to notice any major changes, those plateaus, drop 75 to 150 calories, stay there for a couple weeks, see how your body's responding. Make sure that your workouts aren't impacted. Make sure that your sleep's not impacted, that you're not breaking out, you're not super lethargic, having to take multiple naps a day. And if you can sustain that and then your results start to slow down, then you can drop again another 75 to 150 calories at a time. So listen to your body, tune in, it'll tell you what's happening, but you have to stop and pause long enough to ask yourself those questions. How can we get more whole foods, and why should we get more whole foods, Tara?
Let's just
See if there's any questions. Yeah.
Okay, so whole foods. Let's talk about whole foods. We're talking about veggies, fruits, whole grains, lean meats, just better sources rather than processed sources. So foods in their natural state. So I suggest to start incorporating fruits and veggies. I always suggest 1 cup of vegetables a day and 1 cup of fruit. And that may seem like a lot to you, but it's really not a lot when you start to look at the recommendations. So daily, I usually tell people add it in with dinner or lunch or something, or you can do it as a snack. It depends on your regimen, what you need for you.
And this is a starting place, right?
This is a starting place, absolutely. So 1 cup of vegetables, non-starchy veggies per day, and 1 cup of fruit. And then you're going to do that about 3 to 5 days. And then I suggest adding another cup of either fruit or vegetables, and then progressing. So every 3 to 5 days, just keep progressing until you hit 3 to 5 cups of vegetables and 2 to 3 cups of fruit per day. And people say, oh my gosh, I can't do that, it's so much. But when you think about it, and if you add it to your meals, then, most of the time, you won't have a negative effect from it, because if you just decide to start eating 3 to 5 cups of fruits and vegetables a day and 2 to 3 servings of fruit, you're going to look like you're 6 months pregnant.
That fiber is gonna hit you like, whoa. We're laughing because we all know.
It hurts. And you'll get gas, you'll be very gassy, so.
It'll be very uncomfortable, and we don't want this journey to be uncomfortable. Just like any major jump in consumption or drop in consumption, if it's too great, too fast, it's gonna be uncomfortable.
Right, so I suggest to make at least half of your grains whole grains. So when we discuss whole grains, we're talking about brown rice, quinoa, we're talking about whole grain breads. And you need to be careful because a lot of breads will say that they're whole grain.
With an ingredient list.
Yes.
And the first ingredient will even be white flour.
Yeah. So be mindful. I'm not sure if there's any breads you want to suggest to them eventually, but you can still have your white bread if you enjoy white bread, but try to, so let's say that your recommended serving size is 6 pieces of bread a day, just for instance. I'm not saying to do that. 3 of those should be whole grain, 3 to 4. And the reason being, it's so important to add in whole grains, fruits, and vegetables because you need the fiber. You need the fiber, you need the vitamins and minerals, you need all of the antioxidants. And why is that important? Because fiber helps your GI system. It helps to grab excess fats and bring it through the GI tract. Your vitamins and minerals, for obvious reasons, are important. They help regulate multiple processes. They help with energy processes. So if you're getting vitamins and minerals, it helps to It helps to give you energy. So it doesn't give you energy, it helps to produce energy. Let me be mindful of that, because a lot of people think that B12 shots are going to give them energy. No, it's not the actual B shot. It's going into the cell and producing energy, releasing energy. So it's assisting in it. So then we have our antioxidants. Those are like little soldiers. They go in through the bloodstream and they grab onto free radicals or toxins and help to get rid of toxins. So that's all of your bright colored fruits and vegetables. It's going to help with that. And getting your variety of fruits, vegetables, and whole grains are going to help decrease those nutrition-related disease. So your cancer, your diabetes, your heart disease, your hypertension. So eating a well-balanced diet is going to decrease your chances of getting those tenfold, actually, and it's been proven time and time again. But I always suggest those bright colored fruits and veggies. I can't stress it enough.
Colorful plates, guys, colorful plates. Decrease inflammation in your body, keep your body satiated, especially if you are eating in a deficit. Having more of those whole foods are going to help keep you full so that you're not ravenous while eating in that deficit. So that's beneficial as well. Cheat meals. I've heard this inside the group a couple times, and I want to hear what Heather thinks about cheat meals.
I think there's no such thing. Okay, good.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Say it again for the people in the back.
There is no such thing as a cheat meal. Food is just energy for your body. So we are really good at labeling food as good food or bad food or healthy food or unhealthy food. And what it is really is this food has more dense nutrients, this food has less.
Make your choices accordingly based off how you want to feel and how you want your body to process. And if that means once in a while,
then it's fine. So, and that's what I'll tell people. I'm just like, listen, you can't, like, it's going according to macro counting. You can eat nothing but Twinkies all day long. And guess what? If you don't go over your calories, you're not going to gain any weight. However, you're also going to feel like crap. You're not going to feel healthy. You're not going to feel energetic. You're not going to feel good. So there's nothing wrong with having a bowl of ice cream, maybe a cup of ice cream, every night after dinner. Nothing wrong with that. If you factor that in to your macros, there's nothing wrong with that. So if you want to get in there and you just know that there are certain things when you're calculating your macros, it has to be something that you enjoy. The whole process, you have to find foods that you love. And so if you say, I am not willing to give up my Dr. Pepper, keep the Dr. Pepper. It's okay to have the Dr. Pepper. And but make sure you are tracking that, and you are tracking that for what you really are drinking or eating or whatever it is. But it's okay. Food is just going to give you fuel. It doesn't matter what it is. So it's up to you to decide what fuel you're going to feel the best with. How do you want to feel? And your healthier, your vegetables and your fruits and your whole grains are what's going to help you perform better in the gym, run faster with your kids. Those are the things that are going to make the difference, but it doesn't mean that you cannot have the extras even on a daily basis, as long as you are being conscious and intentional about what you're choosing to put into your body. It's okay to throw those things in.
Yeah,
I love it.
I like to use the word, like when people, so I know some people refer to an untracked meal, like they call their cheat meals like a meal where they just want to take an evening where they don't have to track their, the every morsel of what they're, and I if you're going to refer to that as something, just don't call it a cheat meal. Don't even call it a treat meal, because you're not a dog. You don't have to earn your food, okay? But let's reverb it. If we need to caption it as something, maybe it's a free meal or a fun meal or something that doesn't have that negative mindset and connotation to your food associations, because we have all seen it and witnessed it, especially in today's society. The words you choose to associate with your food choices will spiral, and it will lead to guilt, shame, binging, and an unsustainable approach to health and wellness.
And none of that needs to be there.
We want you to be healthy. We're not endorsing wreaking havoc on all junk food and filling your diet full with junk food. If that's what you just heard, then you didn't listen to anything else we just spent an hour going over. But we are saying that it is okay to, the things that you really love and enjoy and that you're not willing to sacrifice, that you want intentionally, you're choosing, you want that to be a part of your lifestyle long term. Learn how to incorporate them in a safe and moderated thing. It's not inherently bad on its own, and it won't. One can of soda is not going to make you fat if you monitored your energy levels and broken down your macros and you're getting sufficient carbs, proteins, and fats. Because even those junk foods, guess what they are broken down into? Carbs, proteins, and fats. So if you can make it fit in moderation, then you can enjoy those things, and then they don't have to be called a cheat. You don't have to feel bad for doing it. You don't have to punish yourself with excessive cardio to make up for those decisions that you made, or you don't have to eat less the next day because you chose to have that. You're learning to make it fit into your lifestyle and maintain a very healthy energy deficit and a very healthy mind space and a very healthy relationship with your food, which is ultimately what we want, and it's what you need to see long-term sustainable results after this challenge is over.
Yes. And I think too, by allowing yourself to have these little things in moderation, of course, but to have them a part of your daily, if you need it daily or weekly, then it allows you to kind of have power and to feel empowered. That because if I come to you and I say, you cannot have another donut, like from now until forever, what's the first thing you're gonna do?
It's literally going to trigger, that's all you're
run
gonna think
out.
about.
And you're just like, I have to have a donut, I have to have a donut, I have to, and you're gonna be miserable until you eat that donut. And then you're just like, but she told me not to have a donut, and then you're going to be miserable again. You don't have to do that. So it gives you that empowerment to make choices. You are an adult, you can make these choices without feeling guilty.
We're not sending you to the timeout corner.
Yeah.
I don't care what your weekend looked like, I'm not sending you to the timeout corner.
Yeah.
But I do want you, and I'm going to ask you to get intentional with your decisions. Just ask yourself before you have the food, how's this gonna make me feel, and how does this get me closer to my goals?
Right.
And if it aligns and you can make it fit and you can make it work,
Do it.
no harm, no foul.
And bring one to me.
Yeah. See?
One thing I tell my clients
Let's hear it.
is give yourself permission. Give yourself permission to eat that, brownie at the end of the day or whatever it may be.
Just don't eat the whole pan.
Yeah, just don't eat the whole pan. And that's something that a lot of people struggle with. So again, it's like Nikki and Heather both said, intention. It's all about your intentions. And if you sit there and you eat the whole pan and you feel guilty afterwards, and most people will do that, and they're like, oh, I did it, I'm just gonna keep going. I ate that whole pan, so I might as well just go ahead and there goes my diet. Yeah.
It's that binge cycle.
It's following that thing.
And then that's a negative relationship with food. And so if you sit there and restrict yourself, and then it's going to lead to binging, and then it's going to lead to possible mental disorders. And I see it all the time. I see a lot of mental and eating disorders form because of the negative relationship with food, especially when people try all these fad diets on social media. Again, we'll go there, when you're only allowed to eat chicken, bacon, and non-starchy vegetables all day. So again, it's about being there and being present and giving yourself permission to have a wide variety of foods and not feel bad about foods.
Absolutely. It's a brain cycle. Like, it's actually been science and research that what happens is our body is designed to protect us from pain. And guess what makes us feel pain? Guilt and shame, right? But so then when we start to feel bad or guilty or shameful for a decision that we made, our brain is then going to be like, I don't like these feelings. What can I do right now that will give me instant relief? And guess where your body is going to go to? The foods that are going to give you that instant dopamine hit because they're full of, fats and sugars. And then you're going to eat those things. And then because of the negative association, oh, I did something bad, here comes the guilt and shame again. And it's this never ending cycle, and it's not going to cut or break until you start to change the way that you view and perceive the choices in front of you, the foods in front of you. But so long as they stay good and bad or cheat and, you know, healthy, that's going to be your relationship. And so you're going to stay stuck in that cycle of guilt, shame, dopamine, guilt, shame, dopamine, guilt, shame, dopamine. And I don't want you to stay stuck anymore. I want you to draw the line in the sand and break those ties with those relationships. So if you guys have any questions, try and drop them now. But if you're catching the replay, then drop them in the comments and we'll get them answered, guaranteed. Do you have anything else that you guys want to add, either of you? I know, right?
I've been trying to think if we covered everything that was going
so
through
much.
my brain.
Yeah.
Because I'm worried about saying too much here when maybe it should be covered later, so I kind of held back. So I'm trying to think if I covered everything that I have going through my head.
All the important, at least these are the things that we identified today were very strategic, and they're the biggest holes, I feel like, in health and nutrition, specifically in what you're consuming. These are the things that we see, that we've identified as culprits and things that have inhibited people from seeing the results and the success that they want to. So I hope it's been helpful. I really, really hope you all watched the whole thing and that you take advantage of, there's no such thing as a stupid question. Please ask your questions below and utilize these incredible resources. Thank you so much, Heather and Tara, for being here and letting me interview you guys, for your insight. And we'll see you next week. Craig is going to be here next week, and he's going to be talking training. So make sure you hit him up with those questions. Bye. That's good, guys. Went a whole we started late, but
We did go almost a whole hour.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I'm gonna have you download that video too. Hopefully you.
Does anyone else get brain fog right before their cycle?
Yes.
Like I'm like trying to get my words out. I'm like, am I?
Oh, that's my life.
I
It
don't-
has nothing to do with my cycle.
Like,
that's just me.
Do I sound okay? Like,
It should be.
You know, you did great.
I saved it.
Okay.
I mean, if this didn't work, I may have you. We may try and figure out a way.